If you're hunting for rental properties in Florida, you've probably noticed something. Miami landlords are demanding luxury rents for units where the bedroom doubles as the kitchen. Tampa's investor class is outbidding you with all-cash offers before you finish the virtual tour. And Orlando, good luck finding anything that doesn't come with theme park traffic and tourist season vacancy anxiety. But here's what the headlines aren't telling you. While everyone fights over the same overpriced coastal markets, there are 10 Florida towns quietly delivering what every landlord actually wants. Steady tenants, positive cash flow, and rental demand that doesn't vanish when the snowbirds fly home. I'm talking about places where a $150,000 purchase generates $1,400 in monthly rent, where vacancy rates sit under 5% year-round, where tenants stay because moving would cost more than renewing the lease. These aren't the towns realtors push. They're not on HGTV, and institutional investors haven't discovered them yet, which means you still can. I've analyzed rental data, tenant profiles, and income-to-rent ratios across Florida. And what I found is a roadmap for buyers who want cash flow over appreciation, stability over speculation. So if you've been sitting on capital waiting for the right market, or if you're tired of losing to faceless LLCs with deeper pockets, pay attention. Tap like if you're done watching from the sidelines. Subscribe for market intel that actually moves your portfolio forward. And stick with me because these 10 towns might just change how you think about Florida real estate. Let's dive in. 10 PLAKA, the Rivertown investors forgot, never heard of it. That's exactly why it still works. Palatka sits about an hour south of Jacksonville on the St. Johns River, population roughly 10,000. And while the rest of Florida chases Miami dreams, this town is quietly printing rental checks. The numbers: median home price, $140,000, average rent, $1,350 a month, rental yield, 11.6%, vacancy rate, 4.5%. Do the math. Buy at $140,000, put 20% down, that's $28,000. Your mortgage at 7% runs about $745 a month. Add $180 for taxes and insurance. You're all in at $925. Rent it for $1,350. That's $425 a month positive cash flow, or $5,100 a year. On a $28,000 investment, that's an 18.2% cash-on-cash return. Why it works: Palatka's tenant base is stable and predictable. You've got families working in Jacksonville who commute for affordability, healthcare workers at Putnam Community Medical Center, and service industry employees who need housing close to work but can't afford Jacksonville rents. The St. Johns River brings weekend fishermen and retirees looking for waterfront living without waterfront prices. And because new construction is rare here, rental supply stays tight. The tenant profile: you're renting to working families, healthcare staff, and occasional remote workers. These aren't tourists. They're long-term renters who maintain properties because moving costs more than staying put. Trade-offs: Palatka is quiet, job growth is slow, and if you're managing from out of state, finding quality contractors takes effort. But for cash flow investors who prioritize numbers over nightlife, the yield speaks for itself. Comment below if 18% returns in a rivertown sound better than 3% in Miami, because most investors are still looking in the wrong zip codes. 9 Marina, the Panhandle's hidden gem. Mariana doesn't show up on investor radars. Population 8,000, 2 hours from any beach, but the rental math here is quietly outstanding. The numbers: median home price, $125,000, average rent, $1,250 a month, rental yield, 12%, vacancy rate, 3.4%. Buy at $125,000, down payment $25,000, mortgage around $665, add $170 for taxes and insurance, total monthly $835, rent for $1,250, cash flow $415 a month, annual $4,980, on $25,000 down, that's 19.9% cash on cash. Why it works: Mariana benefits from stable government employment. The Federal Correctional Institution employs hundreds of workers who need housing. State jobs at Florida Caverns State Park add seasonal demand. And families who work in Tallahassee but can't afford Tallahassee rents are moving here. Rental demand stays consistent because housing supply is limited. No major apartment complexes, few corporate landlords, just single-family homes that families actually want. The tenant profile: government workers with steady paychecks, young families drawn by affordable schools, and occasional remote workers escaping higher cost of living areas. Long-term leases are common because options are limited. Trade-offs: Mariana is remote, beach trips require planning, big box retail means a drive. But for landlords, that isolation creates sticky tenants who don't move casually. Comment if you take 20% returns backed by government paychecks. Because Mariana is betting on stability, not hype. 8 Lake City, the I-75 connector play. Lake City sits at the crossroads of I-75 and I-10. That geography alone makes it a rental workhorse. The numbers: median home price, $155,000, average rent, $1,500 a month, rental yield, 11.6%, vacancy rate, 4%, buy at $155,000. Down payment $31,000, Mortgage roughly $825, taxes and insurance $220, total $1,045 month. Rent for $1,500, cash flow $455 month, annual $5,460 on $31,000 down, that's 17.6% cash on cash. Why it works: Lake City's location drives everything. Interstate access brings logistics jobs, warehouses, trucking, distribution centers. Florida Gateway College brings students who rent year-round. And the VA hospital employs hundreds of healthcare workers who need nearby housing. Rental demand is diverse. Young families, healthcare professionals, college students, and logistics workers rotating through short-term contracts. That diversity keeps vacancy low. The tenant profile: healthcare workers, nurses, techs, admin staff, college students, often parents co-signing, logistics employees, and families who value short commutes and affordable schools. Trade-offs: Lake City's downtown feels dated. Entertainment options are thin, but functional infrastructure, good internet, reliable utilities, chain retail keeps daily life manageable for tenants. Comment if interstate logistics and hospital jobs sound like rental security to you, because Lake City is proving location beats amenities. 7. Clewiston, the sugar town that pays. Clewiston calls itself America's sweetest town because of sugar cane. But the real sweetness: rental yields that crush coastal markets. The numbers: median home price $142,000, average rent $1,400 month, rental yield 11.8%, vacancy rate 3.5%, buy at $142,000, down payment $28,400, mortgage around $755, taxes and insurance $200. Total $955 month, rent for $1,400, cash flow $445 month, annual $5,340 on $28,400 down, that's 18.8% cash on cash. Why it works: Clewiston's economy runs on agriculture. U.S. Sugar employs thousands during harvest season, October-March. Those workers need housing, and because the company brings in contractors and seasonal staff, short-term rental demand spikes predictably. Lake Okeechobee adds tourism dollars. Bass fishermen rent year-round. Retirees downsize here for waterfront access without waterfront mortgage payments, and families stay because schools are small and functional. The tenant profile: agricultural workers, seasonal and full-time, tourism-related service workers, retirees on fixed incomes, and fishermen who lease seasonally, mix of 6-month and 12-month leases. Trade-offs: Clewiston is isolated, 2 hours from either coast. Hurricane insurance runs high near Lake Okeechobee, but rental demand never dries up because jobs stay consistent. Comment if you'd bet on agriculture wages over tech sector volatility, because Clewiston is old economy steady in a gig economy world. 6. OKECHOBE, the lake town with legs, same lake as Clewiston, but Okeechobee plays a different rental game. It's bigger, more diversified, and showing surprising tenant demand. The numbers: median home price $168,000, average rent $1,650 month, rental yield 11.8%, vacancy rate 4%, buy at $168,000. Down payment $33,600, mortgage around $895, taxes and insurance $240, total $1,135 month, rent for $1,650, cash flow $515 month, annual $6,180 on $33,600 down, that's 18.4% cash on cash. Why it works: Okeechobee benefits from 3 income streams: agriculture, tourism, and coastal overflow. Families priced out of Palm Beach County are moving here for affordability. Remote workers are discovering gigabit fiber, and retirees want lake access without condo fees. The town has functional infrastructure: Publix anchors grocery, chain restaurants cover dining, and healthcare options are decent for a town this size. The tenant profile: young families escaping coastal prices, remote workers who prioritize space and internet, retirees leasing before buying, and service workers who staff local tourism businesses. Trade-offs: Okeechobee is still rural. Specialty retail requires a drive, but for tenants that trade-off comes with lower rent than the coast and more space than they'd get anywhere near Palm Beach. Comment if you'd ride the wave of coastal refugees moving inland, because Okeechobee is catching what Miami is pricing out. 5. Avon Park, the ridge town renting strong. Avon Park sits on Florida's ridge, which means actual elevation. In a flat state, that's a selling point, and for landlords, it's a rental opportunity. The numbers: median home price $145,000, average rent $1,450 month, rental yield 12%, vacancy rate 4.5%, buy at $145,000, down payment $29,000, mortgage around $770, taxes and insurance $210, total $980 month, rent for $1,450. Cash flow $470 month, Annual $5,640 on $29,000 down, that's 19.4% cash on cash. Why it works: South Florida State College drives consistent rental demand. Students lease year-round, faculty and staff need housing, and parents of students often buy properties as investments, then rent to their kids and peers. Healthcare jobs at Advent Health and Florida Hospital add stable tenants, and retirees moving inland for affordability create a diverse tenant mix. The tenant profile: college students, often with parental co-signers, college staff and faculty, healthcare workers, and retirees leasing before committing to purchase. Mix of 9-month and 12-month leases. Trade-offs: Avon Park's downtown is mid-revitalization. Crime varies by neighborhood, local knowledge matters, but rental demand stays strong because housing options are limited. Comment if college towns and healthcare jobs sound like a diversified tenant strategy, because Avon Park is proving education drives rental stability. For Fort Meade, the quiet performer. Fort Meade doesn't make headlines, population 6,000, but for cash flow investors, it's a sleeper market delivering consistent returns. The numbers: median home price $135,000, average rent $1,350 month, rental yield 12%, vacancy rate 3.4%. Buy at $135,000, down payment $27,000, mortgage around $720, taxes and insurance $190. Total $910 month. Rent for $1,350. Cash flow $440 month. Annual $5,280 on $27,000 down, that's 19.6% cash on cash. Why it works: Fort Meade's rental demand comes from 3 sources. 1. Families working in nearby Bartow or Lakeland who commute for affordability. 2. Workers at Mosaic phosphate operations who need housing close to work. And 3. Retirees downsizing from more expensive Florida markets. The town is stable, predictable, and low drama. Tenants stay because moving costs more than renewing, and because supply is limited, landlords have pricing power. The tenant profile: blue-collar workers, phosphate, logistics, construction, young families seeking affordable schools, and retirees on fixed incomes who rent before buying. Long-term leases dominate. Trade-offs: Fort Meade is quiet to the point of sleepy. Entertainment is minimal. But for landlords, that quiet translates to tenant retention and low turnover costs. Comment if boring and profitable sound like your investment strategy, because Fort Meade is the definition of both. 3. BROKSVILLE, the Tampa overflow play. Brooksville is 1 hour north of Tampa, close enough to commute, far enough to stay affordable, and for rental investors, that geography is gold. The numbers: median home price $175,000, average rent $1,750 month, rental yield 12%, vacancy rate 3.4%. Buy at $175,000, down payment $35,000, mortgage around $930, taxes and insurance $250. Total $1,180 month. Rent for $1,750. Cash flow $570 month. Annual $6,840 on $35,000 down, that's 19.5% cash on cash. Why it works: Brooksville attracts 2 tenant types. 1. Tampa commuters who want space and lower rent. 2. Healthcare workers at Oak Hill Hospital and Spring Hill Regional Facilities who need nearby housing. Nature Coast Technical Institute brings students and staff, and retirees moving to Hernando County for affordability creates steady demand across price points. Tampa commuters, healthcare, tech, services, healthcare workers, technical school students and staff, and retirees leasing before buying. Strong mix of professional tenants. The tenant profile. Trade-offs: Brooksville is growing, which means traffic is increasing. Chain retail is encroaching. But for landlords, growth means rising rents and sustained demand. Comment if Tampa proximity without Tampa prices sounds like your rental thesis, because Brooksville is banking on overflow demand. 2. MACCLENNY, the Jacksonville Escape Hatch. McElney sits 30 miles west of Jacksonville, close enough for jobs, far enough for sanity, and the rental numbers are exceptional. The numbers: median home price $168,000, average rent $1,700 month, Rental yield 12.1%. Vacancy rate 3%. Buy at $168,000. Down payment $33,600. Mortgage around $895. Taxes and insurance $240. Total $1,135 month. Rent for $1,700. Cash flow $565 month. Annual $6,780 on $33,600 down. That's 20.2% cash on cash. Why it works? McElney's rental demand is driven by Jacksonville overflow. Families who work in Jacksonville but can't afford Jacksonville rents move here for schools, space, and safety. The commute is manageable, and the quality of life trade-off pencils out. Healthcare workers at Ede Fraser Memorial Hospital rent nearby. And the town's growth is steady, new subdivisions without explosive appreciation that prices out renters. The tenant profile: Jacksonville commuters, professional and blue-collar, healthcare workers, young families prioritizing schools, and occasional remote workers seeking affordability near a major metro. Trade-offs: McElney is growing, which brings both opportunity and competition. But for now, rental demand outpaces supply, keeping vacancy low and rents stable. Comment if 20% cash on cash near a major metro sounds like the perfect rental strategy, because McElney is proving commuter towns deliver. 1. Quincy, the Tallahassee character play. Quincy is 20 minutes from Tallahassee, but it feels like a different century: historic homes, tree-lined streets, and rental yields that crush state capital prices. The numbers: median home price $148,000, average rent $1,500 month, rental yield 12.2%, vacancy rate 3.4%. Buy at $148,000, down payment $29,600, mortgage around $790, taxes and insurance $210, total $1,000 month. Rent for $1,500, cash flow $500 month, annual $6,000 on $29,600 down. That's 20.3% cash on cash. Why it works? Quincy's rental demand comes from Tallahassee. State employees, FSU staff, and private sector workers commute daily because Quincy offers character, space, and affordability that Tallahassee can't match. The housing stock is diverse: craftsman bungalows, Victorian homes, and mid-century ranches. That variety attracts tenants who want something beyond cookie-cutter apartments. The tenant profile: Tallahassee commuters, government, education, healthcare, young professionals, and families who prioritize historic character and neighborhood feel. Long-term leases are common. Trade-offs: Quincy's historic homes require maintenance budgets. Electrical, HVAC, and roofing can surprise new landlords, but rental demand stays strong because proximity to Tallahassee keeps the tenant pool deep. Comment if you'd take historic character and 20% returns over new construction and 5% yields, because Quincy is proving old bones can print new money. So there you have it, 10 Florida towns where rental demand is strong, cash flow is positive, and institutional investors haven't arrived yet. From Palatka's river town stability to Quincy's Tallahassee overflow, these markets deliver what every landlord wants: tenants who pay on time, low vacancy, and returns that actually justify the risk. This isn't about speculation, it's not about appreciation. It's about monthly checks that hit your account whether the market goes up, down, or sideways. If you've been waiting for the right time to invest in Florida rentals, this might be it. Not because prices are rising, but because the rent-to-price ratio finally makes sense again. Comment below which towns surprised you most, or if you're already landlording in one of these markets, I want to hear how it's going. And subscribe right now if you want more rental market breakdowns that skip the hype and show you where the real cash flow is hiding. Florida's rental market is changing fast. The question is, will you watch from the sidelines or will you step in while the yields are still this good? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.